Hello everyone, I'm just going to do a mug and just scroll on the city. So what's happened? Well, we've just found out that uh, Boris Johnson and his wouldn't say even government because he's got like a handful of people now has suffered not only a humiliating defeat, but he's also lost his majority and trying to say, I'm going to call the general election, and about three of the leaders said, yes, okay then, but we sort of breaks it off first. In other words, he's like, everything that he wanted is gone out the window now, and Boris is just a dead man, literally a dead man walking. He has no, he is in charge of a minority government now. He has lost control of Brexit, and now he's basically twiddling his thumbs, waiting for doomsday, basically. There's nothing he can do now. Corbyn was very clever. What he did was he said, okay, I'll fight you in a general election, but we do it on my terms and we get the bill passed first. And that is kind of, I think that's genius. That's what I would have said. I would have said, look, that Boris now has to, essentially what this means is tomorrow a debate is more than likely to succeed. It will mean that the debate itself means that Boris will now have to go back to the EU and say, look, if we haven't got a deal by the deadline, we have to write for an extension. And that ties Boris's hands, and if they refuse, then Parliament could turn around and say, well, we don't want to leave the EU at all. This basically makes Boris's job very difficult for Brexiteers in general. As someone that is a Remainer, and I hear the word Remain, it's such a patronising thing. It means that we now have some control of our destiny. It means that we are not going to crash out with a dangerous deal. It means without a deal at all, it means that we have some stability, and a people's vote is a lot more likely now. And but these are just things that are going on. Now Boris decided once he'd try and scare his MPs into doing what he wanted. He was asking them, saying, if you vote against me, I'll withdraw your whip. If you, I will call a general election. That's another one. Now he has tried, thanks to the previous government, i.e. David Cameron. He can't just call an election whenever he wants. He has to get 2/3 of Parliament to vote it, and 2/3 of Parliament are not going to vote for it. I don't think, maybe the Conservatives might, but they are not the majority government anymore. They are a minority government. So even half, he hasn't even got half anymore. That means that in order for it to go through, he's got to ask a lot of favours on Corbyn. Now, the way Corbyn finished, I think even the Labour Party themselves know that this is not the best thing to do, even though they are itching for a fight right now. I think they want the election on their terms, not on Boris's. This means that the Labour Party are going to let him stew in his own juices, maybe force Boris to get an extension if he can't get a deal, which is probably less likely because they're not going to change the backstop at all. I think Boris will have to come up with some creative ways to kind of get the backstop in, but under a different name. This also means that if he can't deliver on the 31st of October, he's broken his pledge. Then, and only then, I think Labour should call a vote of no confidence, because then Boris will be seen as a weak leader. He's already a weak leader now, but Boris could argue that Parliament bound his hands, and he needs a majority and he could say that he needs a majority to get anything done, hence why he needs an election. Now the fact that he's threatening to take the whip away from party members, that is not going to go down well. There'll be core party members who maybe won on marginal or very slim majorities will now be worried because they won't have that driving force there. Remember that the Scottish Tories did well because of the Scottish leader. She resigned, so they don't have her to fall back on. So they'll probably lose a lot of seats in Scotland. They may not even be in Scotland anymore. They could also suffer through the Brexit party. Labour probably will always split the vote between Brexits. That's what happened with the last by-election. When the Lib Dems got through, they split the Labour vote. So that means, because Labour's now become the party of Remain, it means they're less likely to have their vote stolen by Lib Dems. That means that now Labour have a good chance, and if they are smart, they can chip away at Boris even more, to the point where Boris can't do anything. He's a weak Prime Minister, and that is what I think they should do. They should hold off until after Halloween. Once this deadline's over, that means that Corbyn can claim that, yeah, we forced. If Boris comes back and says, oh, well, I got the deal, I did what I promised, Corbyn can come back and say, well, I pushed for this deal, I made this thing happen. This will mean that the Brexiteers will also feel betrayed by Boris, but Boris will be seen very weak now, and the Brexit Party will come in and start hoovering up the vote of the disillusioned Brexiteers, and I think that's what's going to happen. But that's just my opinion. I will see you later. So there you go.